You're listening to The Dan Nicholl Show.
For the first time in the history of the Dan Nicholl Show, I have got in front of me an A4 binder full of the rider of today's guests. I'm not allowed to look His Imperiousness directly in the eye.
Oh.
I have to comment regularly on his striking physique and physical good looks and behave myself entirely because it's the first time we have ever had a mayor on the show. Jordan, welcome.
Good morning, Dan. What a lot of nonsense to start with. But
Were you expecting anything else, Mr. Mayor?
no, I wasn't. I was about to say exactly par for the course.
So we've had a related conversation in the past. You are not my favourite mayor.
Uh-huh.
And in fact, you sit at number 3 on the list. I have
Okay.
previously had you at number 2, but then I forgot
dropped
Mayor
one down.
Quimby from The Simpsons,
Ah,
who I think is probably the mayor one day you might get to be because he's an inspirational figure.
is,
But the other one,
let me take a guess who the number one is.
take a wild guess.
You have a young kid, so I'm going to guess that it's Mayor Humdinger
Mayor
from Paw Patrol.
from Paw Patrol. Actually, he probably sits at 4 or 5.
Okay.
It would be my little sister, who was the Lord Mayor of Belfast in Northern Ireland a number of years ago.
Brilliant. So she's definitely got the best and most important job in the family. Yeah.
Oh, considerably. It's
Yes.
very annoying because I'm supposed to be the cool and important one, but she's usurped that. And what it's allowed me to do is have a bit of an insight into the world of being a mayor, which I thought was generally just put your feet up, never pay for anything, have a wonderful time. And it turns out it's not quite like that. And she is one of the very few, and you would also be in that list of people in political office who I actually like, because my general view is most people who want to be politicians shouldn't be allowed to be politicians.
Correct. Yeah.
But there are very happy exceptions. And I think the one that strikes me most, and we don't know each other terribly well, we've done a few events together, is not only is there always a very large smile on the face, but for someone who has an office that asks a lot, is very demanding, and doesn't always have its fans, you do genuinely seem to love and adore and be so passionate about what you do.
I really do. I think that helps a tremendous amount. I mean, there's the old cliches about, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day. But in this case, it is really true. Of course, the job comes with stress from time to time. But in general, it is a wonderful, wonderful gig. And I love doing it. It's an incredible city. And sometimes I still have, even 3 years in, still have kind of pinch me moments. So recently I drove back from Hermanus along the coastal road on Clarence Drive and just coming around the corner of Betty's Bay and looking across False Bay, seeing the whole of Cape Town spread out before you from Muizenberg all the way to Cape Point and everything in between. Just what an absolute blessing to be able to play a role in leading this magnificent city.
To think this is all mine.
It really is a pinch me moment, and it's not only is it a great physical place or geographical place and with natural beauty, but incredible people, great spirit, great vibe. So yes, I do love the job.
And it's one you get to do at an impossibly young age. I think you're about 23 at the moment, which is in political terms, you're unusually young, which suggests that this was something that, to one degree or another, was kind of on the agenda. Were you the
Actually,
school prefect? Were you the head of the
yes.
head of the Interact committee? Was that always that sort of person?
I was both of those things. I was the head prefect at Edgemead High School, the greatest high school in Cape Town's northern suburbs. And yes, I was in Interact as well. I was
Such a nerd.
yes, exactly. And first team rugby, all that. So I suppose, but never was it on the agenda to be the mayor of Cape Town. I can honestly say, I was a member of parliament previously. I was doing finance and economics stuff, enjoying it very much. But was becoming increasingly concerned and frustrated about South Africa and its direction, and thought I can't just be in opposition where it's essentially a debating gig. You've got to, and that's fun. I enjoy a good debate, but that's what it is. It's a debating gig, and I had to do something where I could really roll up my sleeves. And so I only really started thinking about it during the pandemic when we were locked up for all those times, and thought the gears started to turn at that point, and then it just developed into a decision: I'm going to run.
Did it surprise your parents that you became mayor of Cape Town?
Uh, no, I don't think so because certainly for the 10 years before that, I have been completely obsessed with politics. I was already a member of parliament. It did surprise them that I got into politics earlier than that. I had I had signed up originally for a accounting degree. I grew up with a single mum, and as with so many single mum households, money was tight. And so she took the Henry Ford approach to my studies. I could study anything I wanted so long as it was accounting, law, or medicine. And so I signed up for an accounts degree, and within 6 months figured out that this would be like just unspeakably boring.
Mind-numbing.
Absolutely, there's no way that I could survive this. And so went and had a very difficult discussion about changing degrees to a PPE.
I'm sure that went down very well.
That was the surprise. That was the surprise. But they did back me, fortunately, and ended up loving it and still do.
Well, rightly so. Even that, though, even politics, I suspect was the second choice because for a long period of time there was Geordin Hill-Lewis second row of the Springbok rugby team as an outside chance.
Yes, and just on the fringes of the Stormers squad as well. That was the real dream. No,
Maybe
that's
you're
definitely-
mad, not only mad keen about rugby, which I've seen because I've been at the stadium and you've been going absolutely mental and saying some things to the referee that you probably shouldn't have said, sitting just down from me.
I am an absolutely unashamed partisan, and I make no apology for that.
But you also play a lot of rugby. You did
Yes.
play first league
Yes.
rugby. You were, and I've spoken to a couple of people who not only said that you were a very accomplished lock forward, but also, Mr. Mayor, and I'm watching the 8 large members of security glaring at me from the corner of the room. There were one or two who suggested that at the bottom of the ruck, you might accidentally, of course, have maybe briefly just clashed their jaw with a Geordin Hill-Lewis shaped fist at the bottom of a ruck.
No, I engaged in all the manners of physical persuasion that one can engage in the rugby game. But no, I really, really love rugby and loved playing it, and only gave it up. I think it was 2 years after varsity. So played all through high school, and played then at UCT for a couple of years. But I was living in the northern suburbs, so it was very tough to be at the late night practices at the Green Mile at Ike's. So then eventually moved to, I think in my third year, if I remember correctly, moved to NTK, Noordlikes, where I had a very good time and played seconds there for another 2 or 3 years. And then eventually politics there was a kind of convergence point where I was getting more and more obsessed and involved with politics, and I felt my rugby become more and more social, and it started to become about like an hour-long practice and then an hour and a half in the pub afterwards. So the practice was actually not the main event anymore. And then eventually, I think about 2 or 3 years after varsity, I packed it in.
I love the fact that your life decision was become the mayor of Cape Town or continue playing second team rugby.
Exactly, yeah, into your car. No, I mean, it was a great time, and then for a while afterwards, I don't know if you've ever heard about this team, but I'm sure Scotty is going to listen to this podcast. We played for a wonderful team called the Roughnecks, which was like an old boys team of Edgemead Mafia old boys. Convened by Gareth Scott, who we all call Scotty. A wonderful, fond memory. So I actually still played Roughnecks for a couple of years after that. And then it all just falls apart. Then you become kind of extremely injury prone, and then you have to either make a decision to, either you're going to train properly and perform in the second row, or you're going to injure yourself seriously. So you have to just make a choice.
Which you did, and I think with full deference to your rugby career, it was probably the right one.
Yeah.
In retrospect.
Yeah.
But it's
But I must just say I have been, because we're meeting on a significant day. Yesterday, Brock's retirement was finally announced, something like 48 years into his life or something. 48 years into his rugby career. But it's a crushing day for me, a crushing day, because so long as Brock was playing, my dreams were still alive. And now they are crushed.
well, maybe there's a gap that's opened up as the
There really
senior statesman.
Exactly. Oh,
Oh,
but I hope you're listening.
no, we'll send him the tape cassette of this one. I think part of the rugby story that for me is so cool for who you are and what you've been able to do is it adds to that image you have of somebody people feel I could go and have a beer with this guy. There's not this distance between you and the rest of the world that there sometimes is in our leadership, and I don't think, unless you're a particularly good actor, that it is affected in any way. It's just who you are.
Yeah, yeah.
I've seen you with people. You'll chat to anyone. You'll have a beer, and you are the kind of guy that most people just say, "Yeah, he's the sort of person I could go and have a braai with."
I think it helps to genuinely be a people's person and to love people. I'm fascinated by people. Uh, People have these incredible stories that you can get to if you just scratch below the surface. You can usually get the most fascinating stories in just 10 minutes of conversation. Genuinely, one of the best parts of the job is going around the city every day, meeting new people, figuring out the interesting things that's going on in their lives, what they're doing in their communities. So I think that really helps. And then, yes, I mean, just I grew up as a very ordinary Cape Town, northern suburbs, Edgemead kid, and a lot of people when they see my name, it has this very kind of what's the word, like
Typo feel to it.
yeah, well, that too. But I suppose some people receive it as quite like a posh.
There is an aristocratic bent. to it.
Correct, yeah. But so sometimes I get people that say, well, with a name like yours, you obviously went to Bishops or something, and actually, just very, very straightforward upbringing and loved it, and I still live in that community. So I mean, I'm just an ordinary guy as well.
I mean, the name does suggest minor Jane Austen character,
Yeah.
and then you meet in person, and it's early years Family Guy, and it's.
Wow. Oh wow, that's rough. That's rough.
But and then all the time we've had to go with a great deal of fun. It's been
Yeah.
a cool environment, but that is not always the case. And I certainly wouldn't want to be in your shoes because I don't think leadership generally has ever been tougher. The world we live in is an increasingly difficult place. And just as a parent, I worry about my children growing up. And so when I see people like yourself who've thrown themselves so wholeheartedly into trying to bridge some of those gaps, it gives me some much needed hope in this world of ours that consistently seems to be in flames. But even you cannot have the smile permanently on the face. There must be nights when you go to bed, mornings when you wake
Yeah.
up thinking, right, where's the Prozac? I'm switching off my phone. I'm going to watch 36 episodes of Friends, eat 4 pizzas, and try and ignore the rest of the world.
Yeah, I mean, undoubtedly, undoubtedly, you have some of those days. There are stressful times. I would say still that it's a tiny minority. In general, it's a wonderful, wonderful job and opportunity. But yes, I deal with stress by trying to spend time with the family. That's a huge de-stressor always. We've got similar age kids. I find spending time with the kids is always a huge de-stressor. Trying to find time to go to the game reserve is a favorite of our family, and it's a very special, quite globally unique city in that we have a national park right in the heart of the city. So we spend some time in the national park as well. We find that very relaxing. So it's about setting boundaries and making sure that you have enough time to do those things which do help you unwind a little bit and focus on the bigger picture. Generally, I am an optimist, though, so I don't allow negative thoughts to take over. They just don't really take over. I tend to quite enjoy seeing the way through a problem and trying to find a solution, trying to apply my mind to finding a solution rather than being overwhelmed by the problem.
One of the things that was fascinating for me to watch with my kids was I'd be at an airport or be at
Yeah.
a shopping center, and somebody comes up and they want a photo or they want to say hello. And they started to understand that this is what daddy does and this is who he is. And that's on a relatively small scale
It
based
is.
on you. Do they understand who you are, what you are, why you are the single most important person in Cape Town outside of the Stormers squad?
Yeah, exactly. Definitely outside the Storm Squad. The uh, sometimes we'll go to the shop and people will start asking for photos, and my daughter will kind of roll her eyes and say, "Oh, it's going to be one of those days again." But what's been so funny and cute is to see the changing metric of her definition of success as a mayor. So when I was elected, she was 6 years old. And at that time, she was riding on those little stand-up scooters everywhere. And she said to me, "What exactly is a mayor?" So I tried to explain to her what it is. And then she said, "Well, that's great because now you can make sure that everywhere I scoot must have smooth roads." And I said that was her definition of success. Now, 3 years later, she's now 9 years old. And a couple of months ago, she kind of broke my heart when she said, "Dad, you will not be a successful mayor unless you get Taylor Swift to Cape Town."
I thought that might be
Brutal.
coming.
Brutal. That's a bar I can never meet. It's okay.
Well, look, I agree with her entirely. And in fact, I'd say this year, if you haven't got her by
wow.
Christmas,
Oh, wow. Failed mayor.
there is this perception, whether you are a 9-year-old kid chatting to a dad or just general person in the street, that you do have this omnipotent ability to do anything you want. And I think if we look at certain American leaders at the moment,
Yes.
who also have the belief that they can do anything they want at the click of a finger, striking that balance between here's change that I believe in, that I want to affect, that I want to make happen, versus making sure it really is in the public good. Is this going to be right for everybody? Do I really need a 6-hectare jacuzzi in the mayoral palace? Or you have all of these challenges.
Yeah.
Do you find that is a difficult balance?
Oh, yes. I think that's a very perceptive question. So firstly, I do not have the power of executive orders as our the great orange one across the Atlantic does. But so I can't do that. We actually, local government is quite constrained in terms of a myriad of regulations and laws. But on the other hand, local government is, I think, the sphere of government in South Africa that actually has the most direct impact and is able to affect the most really meaningful change in people's lives, because local government, cities, run all the things that people interact with and come up against or have to deal with on a daily basis, whether it's cleanliness or the condition of roads, municipal infrastructure, basic services, tourism, the park at the end of your road, the library at the end of your suburb, all of those basic building block parts of our lives, and that's what draws me to it. The balance that you speak of is very, very important, because sometimes I think you are convinced of a set of actions, and it's a constant challenge to make sure that everyone understands how important that set of actions is. And the other rule of thumb is that unless something is actually causing a bit of controversy and is ticking someone off, it probably isn't ambitious enough and isn't actually making a real difference. If you can just kind of swim through your term of office without ever getting anyone's backups, it probably means you haven't made a great deal of change, actually, because everyone's just kind of carrying on. And that's very easy to do, of course. Just look at Johannesburg today.
It's my home city you're talking about. Careful there.
Condolences. So you can get away with kicking the can down the road and not causing any fuss, but actually what happens in the end is that the outcome is much worse. So if you do any kind of leadership initiative, you're going to tick some people off, and so I think it's probably part of the occupational hazard.
I will correct you on one thing there. You can't kick the can down the road in Johannesburg because it hits a pothole and it can't go any further.
Pothole. That's a great point. Yeah.
The city that you call home has become home to so many others around the world. I had dinner last night, and part of the group was French and part of the group was Polish, and it has become this melting pot of people from all over the world. Is there a risk that Cape Town gets too popular, that too many people want to come and call this home?
No, not at all. I mean, if you look at the truly great two what I call complete cities. They are
Pietermaritzburg and
yes, and welcome. No, I mean, if you look at London and New York City, they are what I call the complete cities of the world. They are total melting pots. There are hundreds of different national and ethnic communities, languages spoken, food served, and they are kind of magnets for the whole world. So I think that global diversity, becoming a truly global city, is wonderful for Cape Town. It only adds to the already incredibly rich diversity that you have in the city, owing to its very different historical strands. So you've got descendants of the Malay slave trade in the city. You've got former colonial settlers. You've got people with English heritage. You name it. You've got Cape Afrikaners. Everyone in between. It is just, I think, one of the coolest places to live in the world, and its internationalism and its diversity only adds to that coolness.
and a mere 2-hour flight from Johannesburg. What more could you need? The diversity of the people is
Nearly far away enough.
it's headlines tomorrow. The mayor and presenter come to blows in luxury hotel suite. If you look at it, it's not just the people, of course, it's the elements within it, the restaurants, the natural beauty, the cultural attractions. At the risk of each of the ones you're about to mention having a queue of 1,000 before we
Yeah.
finished recording this, are there a couple of little magical spots for you that when you are able to get away, and as much as one can when you're the mayor of the city, you do like to go and take the family to, or get away for a romantic evening, or just go and hang out at?
Cool. So let's go through a couple. Firstly, some outdoor spots. As I said, I really do think it is perhaps not globally unique. I can think of maybe a couple of other cities that have an enormous national park in the heart of the city, but Cape Town is nearly globally unique. And so the more time you can spend in the national park, the better. It's amazing. Just a couple of weeks ago, on Easter weekend, the weather was magnificent in Cape Town. I took the family to Chapman's Peak, driving along Chapman's Peak at one of the little parking embayments there, and a French tourist shouted at the top of her lungs, "What is that?" And right there was a beautiful caracal. I mean, I just thought to myself, where else can you see the spectacular sighting, this kind of wildlife, in the middle of a metropolitan of 5 million people? And it's not in a zoo, it's in the wild. So
Power of the mayor. Even the caracals come out to say hello.
yeah, I love the mountain and the park. Similarly, I think the Greenpoint Urban Park is just a magical a public place. Okay, then let's go to some. I think the House of Machines on Short Market Street is a fantastic little
I
pub.
can see you hanging out there.
Yeah, do you know it?
I do indeed.
Okay, good. Fantastic little pub, great place to go for a pint and amazing food. I think the Time Out Market is also fantastic food and a great place to go. I don't really gravitate towards very formal spaces. I prefer informality. But once in a while, we treat ourselves to La Colombe. I think the best, I mean, it is factually the best restaurant in South Africa, but it is also, I think, must be right up there among the very best restaurants on the whole African continent. It is pricey, but they have a great winter special, which is, and it starts now in June, actually. So you'll see us there sometime in winter.
So this is where we would differ, because I know that you will go have that experience, and as much as they'll try and give it to you for free, you will pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas I will do everything to get out of that and continue my trend of not having paid for anything since 2004, which is a great hallmark.
Hence this corner suite at the
Exactly.
Cape Grace.
It's there is just so much to it, and I lived here for a better part of a decade. Still come back pretty much every month,
Yeah.
and I don't think there's any trip where I don't come back where I don't find somewhere that's new or different or just
That
opened.
that is a great point. That is one of the fantastic things about the Cape Town restaurant scene. Of course, not that fantastic for those restaurants that closed down, but it is constantly changing. You go to one restaurant, you have a great night. 6 months later, you drive past and you see there's a totally new place there. And that's equally a fantastic experience. So that's also one of the cool things about the Cape Town restaurant and nightlife scene.
Given that the parallel show to the Dan Nicholl show is Dan Really Likes Wine, I must touch on that spot quickly.
Yes.
We were at an event quite recently together, the Hamilton's 150th rugby celebration, and I introduced you to what at first looked like an elderly gentleman of no fixed abode in
Yes.
some borrowed clothes.
Homeless man, yeah.
And you smiled very politely, and I saw you reaching for the sanitizer after you'd shaken your hand, and you didn't
Nonsense.
quite hear the first time, and then I mentioned his name again, and your eyes lit up,
Wow.
and you went full fangirl
Yes.
when you discovered that this disreputable character was the great Ardie Badenhorst,
Yeah.
one of your favorite winemakers.
I mean, this isn't just another reason. There's such a long list. I can't believe we took so long to come to this reason. One of the most important, why this is the best place to live in the world. We have the most unbelievable wine scene. And Adi is absolutely one of my favorites because he makes a great range of wines called Secateurs, which has been my go-to wine for years now, actually, because it is, in my view, fantastic wine, and it's still in the kind of reasonably affordable price range. And so I'm a huge admirer of Adi, and had never met him before that you introduced you to him, and so had admired his product. And I generally have enormous respect for Cape winemakers because what they make. Wine is not just a product. It's not like I don't know, making a piece of stationery or something. It's absolutely part art, part science, and part manufacturing, part agriculture. It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing, and the things that they produce are magnificent. And where else in the world, again, not just our enormous national park, but where else in the world can you be in the city of 5 million people and be within 20 minutes, 25 minutes of a magnificent wine valley in the Constantia wine valley? Or where I live in the north, I live right just at the foothills of the Tygerberg Hills, so close to the Durbanville wine valley, where there's some fantastic white wines and increasingly some reds as well. So I just think we're incredibly privileged to be in this space.
Without meaning to get negative on myself, I'm starting to think that my chances of luring you to move up to Johannesburg are starting to become just a little limited.
Yes.
As we wrap
What
up,
are the main kind of wine farms in the area?
so interestingly, I shall come back to you, clever Mr. Mayor. There is actually a Greek-owned wine producer in Craighall Park who ships her grapes up from Ardie Badenhorst's farm, and one of the wines is called, I think, the 1,482, which is the number of kilometers that those grapes trek up. But otherwise, it is a little limited.
Is it drinkable?
It is very drinkable.
Okay. all
It's
right.
Ardie's grapes. So
That's Ardie's
she does-
grapes,
she does a
exactly.
good
That's
job.
it.
Your daughter has set out that you need Taylor Swift to come to Cape Town if your mayorship, mayorhood, mayoralty is going to be a success.
Yes.
Definitely, but there are a couple of others to add here. The fact you've mentioned it already. He has retired Brock Harris Avenue or Brock Harris Parade.
Now that is a good idea.
Can you, as mayor, can you name
Yes, I can.
streets?
That is within my gift.
We'll get on to Dan Nicholl Avenue shortly then. But Brock Harris
Dan
Parade,
Mountain.
yeah, a small close
Yes,
somewhere.
Dead end.
But the other one, this is my real challenge to you. And
Yeah.
I said, with as much sincerity and seriousness as this show will ever muster, the Cape Town Olympic Games, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor. Now, I know it might take one or two minor manipulations of the budget,
Yeah.
and this, of course, is something you're not unfamiliar with. Do you
Yes,
think
it
it's a reality? Do you think it's realistic that we
I-
could bring the Olympics to Cape Town?
Look, that's a good question. I think it is.
And obviously the Winter Olympics. I'd like Table Mountain covered in
Yes.
snow.
It is theoretically possible, but I think quite unlikely unless it has the full backing of the national state, because it is just far above the pay grade of any South African city to undertake a project or program of that scale. To put it into perspective, the Paris Olympic Games last year cost a reported 7 billion euros. And I'm not sure how much of that was borne by the city and how much of that was borne by the national state. But whatever the case, we simply can't play in that league. So we would need to have the full backing of the national state. And when I look at the national finances, I'm not sure that they can actually give such backing. So the short answer is, I think, unlikely, but not impossible for the future. Of course, if what is the organization, the IOC, if they fundamentally changed the business model for the Olympics because they wanted to have an Olympic Games in Africa, which in all of the 1,000-year history of the Olympic Games they have never had, scandalous, then it could be doable. Then if they could come up with a model that greatly reduces the cost, then certainly we would be keen.
I think there is a good African chance because the new head of the IOC is African.
Yes, that's
But
right.
she's Zimbabwean, so I think
Yeah.
we're looking at the Majvingo Olympics,
Yeah,
perhaps, or
I'm not sure about
Kadoma Games.
Yes.
John, it's been an absolute pleasure having you in.
Pleasure.
There is always a room at the Nicholl household for those family holidays to Johannesburg. I know you love taking. But I suspect it'll be more a case of me coming down to meet up with you, a beer at the House of Machines, a
Yes.
glass of wine, and some pizza out at Adi Bardenhorst, or just enjoying what is my university home, the town that my mother grew up in, that my grandparents grew up in, and that has always felt like home. And it's great to be able to share your love of it on the show today.
Thank you very much. It's been so fun.
There we go. By some distance, the greatest ever second team lock forward we've ever had on the Dan Nicholl Show, the Mayor of Cape Town, Geordin Hill-Lewis.
You're listening to The Dan Nicholl Show.